Okay, so here's our last example in section 8.4. As you can see here, it's looks as if a fairly complex problem. So we're kind of look at two parts. We're dealing with division, and we're also dealing with subtraction. Okay? So order of operations say we need to divide before we subtract. Okay? So what we have in this piece right here is a complex fraction. So how do we work with a complex fraction? We multiply by the reciprocal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set this problem up. I'm going to rewrite it, and when I rewrite it, I have my numerator. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator. So the reciprocal of the denominator is going to be x squared minus 1 all over x plus 5. And then we're going to subtract the 4 over x plus 1. So once again, because we are now multiplying, this has to happen first. So that's going to equal, and I'm going to go ahead and factor. We have 2x plus 10 times all over x minus 1 times x minus 1, it's a difference of two squares, x plus 1 all over x plus 5. And then we're going to subtract a 4 over x plus 1. Okay? So now we're going to go ahead and reduce. And when we reduce, we're only looking at this piece because this is multiplication. We can't include the subtraction. It doesn't work that way. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out the x minus 1s. And notice here that this piece right here factors. If we pull out a 2, we get an x plus 5. So now I have an x plus 5 that I can cancel out. And so I'm left with, at the top, 2 times x plus 1 all over 1 minus 4 times x plus 1. So this first piece right here, we did all this work just to get to this guy that's right here. So now, in order to subtract, I need to get a common denominator. So in order to do that, our common denominator is the factor of x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by x plus 1. When I do that, I'm just going to list out my factors, the numerator, 2 times x plus 1 all over x plus 1 minus 4 all over x plus 1. And now I can combine everything. Okay? Now, when we combine everything, fairly long problem here. When we combine everything, I'm going to go ahead and put this all together as one term at the top. It's going to be 2 times x plus 1 minus 4 all over x plus 1. I have to get this guy in standard form and then factor. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute these two guys together. I'm going to leave the 2 on the outside because that's just going to be easier to do after I distribute the x plus 1s together. And that's going to give me x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus 4 all over x plus 1. Next step, I'm going to distribute the 2. So I have a 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 minus 4 all over x plus 1. And then I'm going to go ahead, 2x squared plus 4x minus 2 all over x plus 1. Okay. And then at the very last step, I need to look at this and see if it can factor. So I'm going to look at these two guys and say, okay, if I multiply the first and last terms together, what two numbers multiply to negative 4 but add to 4? No such numbers exist, so we can't factor this like we would like to see if an x plus 1 cancels out. So this would be our final answer. And so yes, a fairly complex problem. As we go back to the top here, keep in mind that we have to consider order of operations. We had to deal with the division first, and we do that by multiplying by the reciprocal, simplify, and then it's going to be easier to simplify than subtract. And then, finally, we look at our complete answer in standard form, see if we can factor. We can't, so that is our final answer.